Hey guys, Juan and Angelica here, back for another episode. And if you've been listening or if you've been tuning in to wherever you listen to this podcast, we're actually on episode 15 now. 16. I don't know. One of those. But we're further along than we were last week. So.
Anticipated.
So we're still kind of working out the kinks, I think, and like figuring out like the flow of this show and this and that. So this is actually take 3 of our intro this week, because for some reason I think what we find, like in general, I think when we work together like this is that we end up kind of like butting heads a little bit.
We do. We clash a lot.
Because we're
not a lot. We clash.
Like we clash because, like, you know, I think just because we have different perspectives and like I'm like, well, sometimes I want to talk about something or you want to talk about something,
or how the run of the show is.
Yeah, and we're both like so we kind of go back and forth. But this is take 3 and we decided we're gonna play nice. So
we did.
I'm playing.
We did. We decided this is it. This is our intro. We're sticking to it regardless of what happens here. We're sticking to it.
What
I was trying to ask.
Nice. I was just playing. But anyway, go ahead.
No, what I was trying to ask you is, one of the things that I was telling you is that we have been not disappeared for the last couple of days, but we basically disappeared for the last couple of days. And I just wanted to ask, like, how have you been? Today's May 31st. A lot is happening. Mm-hmm. How are you?
I'm good. Like I think I'm fine. Like I think I'm just, more than anything, I'm like, oh man, like this is just very fast paced, the year. I feel like the year is getting away from me, and I'm like, I don't like that feeling. I'm like, oh wait, we're in June already. Like, how did that happen? Like, you know, everything is just so like moving forward, even though it feels like it's moving slowly because we're all still at home, or some of us are still at home. I see a lot of people out, so like some of us are still at home.
That was a jab. You heard that jab? I'm just kidding.
So, but you know, some of us are still at home, so it feels like. It doesn't feel like it's moving fast, but then when you look at it, it's like, oh crap, like I can't believe it's already June. You look up and it's already like half the year's gone.
What do you mean you look up at your calendar?
Yeah, and like this year, I'm turning 41 this month. Like this is the 31st, so tomorrow's this month. But June, I'm turning 41, so I'm like, crap, like that feels old.
Yeah.
So that's where my head is at. How about you?
So for me... I was mentioning to you, or well, in the other intros, I happened to mention that just a lot of things are happening and that have me a little bit rattled. And I feel like, that's where my head is at. Like, I'm just like, people just not really like social distancing. I feel like it's a thing of the past. It was the word. What is that? There was like it was like the thing, right? It's like the word. It's like people social distance. It's the thing to do if you're cool, right? And now it's like, oh, social distance. What was that? That was like past tense. I think that's not a thing now. And I think also with the entire the happenings of Black Lives Matters has also been impacted me too. And yeah.
I mean, I think that's been kind of heavy. Like, I've kind of stayed away from social media just because of that. Because of it, and I haven't been like as present on social. Well, I think in general I'm not as active as I used to be. But I like lately, this last week or so, I've been extra off because I'm just like, I just don't want to go in and see the fighting. Like, I feel like people are very passionate, and I'm just like, I don't want to, like, I just know, and it doesn't really like it makes you feel like. That's why I kind of understand sometimes when people say that they get off of social media completely, because I'm like, yeah, people are being, it can be like very like negative sometimes when people are just going like very like when people. It's not that people have different points of view; it's that people want to argue and don't want to see the other person's point of view. Like, they don't, anything you say is invalid, and I'm just like, I just don't want to go through that.
I can see people's burnout when it comes to social media. This is definitely a time that people are getting burnt out. So taking a step away at least a few hours out of the day, you know, if you want to check it in the morning and then maybe once at night for like 5 minutes and be done with it. Because once you go into those little black holes in the comments and the comments of the comments of the comments, and you know, you'll be there for hours.
Well, one thing I did say to you this week, I think I said, if you go to the comment section of local news stations when they're broadcasting like live news, like, I feel like that's the saddest place to go.
Oh, you did say that.
Because it's like you go and you read that stuff, and it's just kind of like, ugh, like it's just
from both sides.
Like, the stuff the way people talk to each other and the way they like address each other. And it comes
from both sides too, yeah.
And it's just like so like not even disrespectful. It's just like so like it feels like can't we like just talk differently?
Yeah.
So that to me is like, so I like watching like live news, but I just won't look at the comments because in general
I feel like, yeah,
because I don't like looking at I don't like looking at the fighting.
I think people moved quickly on from wearing a mask, don't wear a mask. It's my freedom to wear a mask. It's not my freedom. It's not up to you if I wear a mask. Immediately into what's happening. And I feel like there was already a lot of tension, and then this also created tension, and so.
But that's a news cycle. Tension and tension. Right? Like
yeah,
people
it
are
is.
so quick to forget. Like it's like COVID-19.
People were already mad about something, and they became mad about something else.
Then it was a killer bees, and then it was like what?
I don't even remember the killer bees.
Like it was a killer bees, and then it was like something else, Jesus. And then it was like, oh yeah, Trump went after Twitter and Facebook, and then
yeah, and then in the midst of all of that, they send astronauts into space.
Yeah, which that actually was cool.
It was cool.
We watched that, and I.
But do you understand what I'm saying? Like there were so many highs and lows, and we're still on a very like, it's the trajectory that what's happening right now. It's very intense.
Well, I think that what I think is that what's happening now is like the beginning of something, which I think is like what
it's going to turn things around.
Yeah, which is what I'm more like looking at, like what more I'm thinking about is like how does that, not necessarily that I'm looking forward to, because I don't know that it's going to necessarily be a good thing.
Oh, I see what
like
you're saying.
It could be like I feel like there are a lot of emotions and there's a lot of rage right now, and I think that could lead to like bigger things, and I think historically, like if you look at it, they're like historically things when they boil up like this, they usually lead to other things, and so I'm kind of like I hope that that's not the case, but then I do see that maybe that's kind of where we're headed, and I think there's just a lot of factors to a lot of things happening. So
and like I've said before, history is unfortunately doomed to repeat itself. So.
But anyway, before we go dig too dark.
We dug at that earlier, and that's why we had to reintroduce this one. Okay.
But, I'm sorry, I was just saying, so this week we're doing something a little different. You're actually going to tell us about a book that you recently read.
Yeah.
And that you read, like I haven't read the book, but I think you told me about it before a little bit.
I did. When we were on a road trip, I gave you some of the highlights of some of my notes that I took. So it's a book that I've been reading lately, and I feel like I quote unquote I read, because I've had this book for a couple of months. This book here, it's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Bleep.
A frack.
Yeah. So this book I picked up a couple of months ago.
By Mark Manson.
Mark Manson.
Yeah. So I've never actually read this book.
It's a self-development book.
But I think I've heard about it before, but I've seen other people talk about the book, but I've never
but you heard other people talk about a book?
I've heard other people mention the book.
Yeah. So this book here I've had for months at this point, and it just sat up there on the shelf, and it was a self-development book. And a lot of the self-development books, a lot of them, in my opinion, this is just me, tend to be a lot of fluff. And so it's sometimes they're hard to follow because of that. And but some of them are really good, and some of them have a lot of really great things that they can attribute, and you can like.
I think that's why it's hard to navigate the self-help industry, because it's very not only in books, I think in general, like if you look at, like it has to be, I think there's so many different types of people and so many different perspectives, and so like what calls to you may sound like complete fluff to somebody else, and so I don't know. Oh,
I see what you're saying. Yeah. But for me, in my opinion, this one just like some other self-help books, just they were fluff. But like I said, they have a lot of really great things that they definitely contribute. And I've heard many things about this book, and I've heard about it several times, and I was like, okay, I gotta get the book. Now I had it for a really long time, and then I was like, I went ahead and downloaded the audio. But I followed along.
But you've never done an audiobook before?
No. I never done an audiobook before this book here.
Well, see, I think that's the only way that I do books now, because
really?
I just Like, no, I did one book but it was more like business that I actually read. But I think but my issue I was telling you earlier is with audiobooks is that it's hard. Like, I'll lose focus.
Yeah.
And then before I know it, I'm like, wait, I just missed that entire chapter because I was like not paying attention. So in order for me to actually go back and like re-listen to the chapter, it has to be a really engaging book. But anyway, so you were saying this book, there were some good nuggets in it.
There were a few good nuggets in it that I wanted to mention them here. I think we talked about them very briefly when we were on that trip, and it was just me kind of telling you what I read and what I thought. But I'm reading another book, and it's that blue book, which is called Finish. Oh my God, I won't bring it, but it's called Finish, and hopefully I don't bleed that one and this one together, because I just finished this one and I'm reading the other one, and I'm trying to remember exactly what was in this one and what I was able to absorb from this one. But you know how sometimes you absorb from several places, they all kind of like just jumble up together. So I'm gonna try my best.
And you probably notice in this episode that I have a pretty bad memory. So even though we've discussed this book, like
that's in general.
I'm thinking like now, like what was the book about?
That's in general. You have a bad memory. That's the good thing about you.
It's like I do like for some reason like the other day, Edgar was saying, like, we watched this movie together, the three of us. And I was like, no, we didn't. I was like, I don't remember seeing that movie at all. And then he showed me the preview and everything. And he asked you, and you're like, yeah, I saw the movie.
We watched it together.
And I still can't remember the movie. Like, I've never watched that movie. To me, I'm like, I've never watched it. So
even though we sat all together and watched the movie together.
So I'm like, I guess.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I can see his point. Sometimes it's frustrating. I'm like, but we did. You're like, no, we didn't. I'm like, oh.
I'm like, I've never seen that movie.
Yeah. So there's a few nuggets in this book that I did want to mention.
So let's see how good my memory is.
So here, let me just point out. So one of the things that he says is to not give a fuck is to stare down life's most terrifying and difficult challenges and still take action. Give a fuck about less things. Give a fuck about things that are true and immediate and important. Self-improvement and success often occur together.
So this book, it's self-help, but it's why is it not giving a fuck? Like, before we get into the nuggets, like, why is it like, why is that like the core of it? Like, what was your main takeaway? My main takeaway from the book, like the book being called that.
So in my understanding, my takeaway from the book is that we give too many fucks. Basically, is that we're constantly caring about.
It's like you care too much about.
Yeah, we care about too many things about all the time, and things that are unimportant. So if we keep giving fucks, then eventually we don't give a fuck about anything altogether. And if we don't give a fuck about anything altogether, then it's pointless to give a fuck. Does that make sense?
But I think it's from the perspective of like caring too much. Like, is it mainly about like what other people think?
No, it's about what you care about.
That's unimportant.
Yeah, that tends to be unimportant. I think one of the examples he gave was, do you ever wonder why that 60-year-old woman who's fighting with the poor 16-year-old cashier about the damn coupon for 20 cents off?
Oh yeah.
And refuses to wait. Yeah, he's like, yeah, she's at that age where there's nothing really that she cares about, and this is it. She spends her days clipping this stupid coupon. So this is where her fucks are given. And I'm like, it makes complete sense. Okay. It's like the things that we're passionate about is where we care the most. And if we're constantly being passionate about stupid things like aggressive drivers, it's like, is that something that we should really care about? Is that something we should really give attention to? Or passive aggressive siblings, or passive aggressive whatever. Like, is that something our attention should be directed towards? Is that where our best of our time can be spent?
So the objective of this, just judging from the subtitle, is that it's supposed to help you live a better life.
Well, kind of, sort of.
Or be happier or more satisfied or something.
I don't think happier. I think it's a notion to want to just really dive deep into where you're at, and maybe give you a little bit of insight as to like why you're doing the things you're doing, right? Why are you giving this thing too much? Why are you so upset about something you can't control?
Okay.
That kind of thing.
Okay. Well, that sounds interesting. We'll get into it. So we can.
Yeah. All right. So there's a couple of subtleties, right? And then here is subtle 2 that just like it just resonated with me. It says to subtlety number 2, to not give a fuck about adversity, you must first give a fuck about something more important than adversity. How does that sound to you? How does it ring to you?
Say it again. To not give a fuck about adversity.
Give a fuck about adversity. You must first give a fuck about something more important than adversity.
I think that's like if you to not care about the challenges in front of you, you have to care about something more important than those challenges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so what, give me an example.
Like if you're struggling, like the way I think about it is like if you're struggling to like pay to you know make money to feed your family, like, and you have to do like you have to go like do a job that you hate. Mm-hmm. Like that has to be like the end goal to feed your family or to do whatever it is that you need to do to be able to pay your rent or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. That means more to you, and so you really don't care. Like I'm gonna go clean the toilets if I have to. It doesn't really matter to me because my end goal is to be able to be good, to see my family good.
Yeah. So if your focus attention is there, should you really care about how you're getting there?
No, and I think that's like that's why people are like, as long as you're doing something that is like it's like in Spanish it would be like, well, like I don't know, I have to lose my train of thought, but it's like as long as you're doing something that it's you're earning money, and you're doing what you need to do to take care of what you need to take care of, then why does it matter that you're scrubbing toilets? What does it matter that you're like picking up the trash? What does it matter that you're like at a job that you don't like?
It shouldn't, if your end goal is bigger than your adversity of you carrying.
Yeah, or even like think about like from colleges, like when you're going to school, like what does it matter if you have to work 2 jobs to be able to pay for your tuition? Like you don't really care at that point because you're like, I know when I finish this, I'm gonna finish something that I really want for myself.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter to you. Like for the moment, you can sacrifice.
Yeah, that's really good. I'm happy you said that because one of the other little golden nuggets was there is no value in suffering when it's done without purpose. So if you're going to, like Juan said, if you're going to what is the point of feeling pity or sorry or going through the process of feeling pity, like self-pity and feeling sorry for yourself if it has no purpose, if there's no end goal, right? So do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I agree, but I think it takes some growth to get there, like to get to the point where you can actually see the value of suffering before you're like, oh, like, yeah, like I want to suffer, like, because I think for a long time you can just be like, I'm sad, or like I feel like I'm suffering so much, and you can feel sorry for yourself. And you can go down that road where you're just like, oh, poor me, and poor this and poor that, and like my life is so like blah blah blah, and you can feel bad for yourself. But then it takes a while to kind of get out of that and realize like I can't control those things that are maybe making my life bad.
Yeah.
But I can try to I can try to control like how I respond to it. Yeah.
Okay. So another one is you're actually very, very good, like going down that paved road. I like the way you're explaining things because this just keeps fitting into what I'm doing here. It says, sometimes life sucks, and the healthiest thing you can do is admit to it. Constant positivity is a form. Remember we talked about...
Oh, I remember this one.
No. In an episode earlier, we talked about...
Toxic positivity.
Okay, and this is after, right? During that episode, I still hadn't read this book, and I read this book, and I was like, oh, well, I kind of like brought, like, I the secret. I wished it out, and somehow it reversed and came back, and I was like, oh, okay, this is the way I meant it. So constant positivity is a form of avoidance, not a valid solution to life's problems. Things go wrong, people upset you, accidents happen. Deny negativity perpetuates problems rather than solve them. Yeah. The trick with negative emotions is to, 1, express them in a socially acceptable and healthy manner, which I am learning.
That's very hard to do. That's very hard to do.
That is the most difficult thing, because when you're angry at the moment and it's happening real time, you're not thinking about how to be socially acceptable and express yourself in a way where you're not like flicking off 15 different people.
But I think it's very like even if you're not like, even if your reaction is not to flick off people, I think like even if your reaction is different, if your reaction is like to like hold it inside or to not say something because you're like, I don't know how to address it, or I don't know how to like I don't know how to touch the subject without getting pissed off and like blowing up. So instead of doing that, I just
don't say anything.
I won't say anything.
But that's not the way healthy either.
But the way that like presents itself later,
passive aggressive.
Yeah, is like it becomes passive aggressive. So then there's like, you know, like you're upset or you're frustrated about you're with somebody or about something, and you're like, I'm not even trying to be frustrated, but I can't control it. It's just like like that person just annoys me.
Jesus, who are you? Were you sure did go to a moment for a second? Well, here,
I'm just
check
being
this.
Like honest, because I'm like,
well,
when you said it, like I think the last time we talked about positivity, I wasn't too clear on it, but now, like I'm thinking when you said that, and I'm like, and I'm like, like I think I'm still learning how to deal with that because I can be very passive aggressive.
Yeah. Well, number 2 is express them, which means your feelings, in a way that aligns with your values. I have to say, I'm not thinking about my values when I'm mad and upset. I'm not thinking about how I socially can express myself in a socially accepted way. I think I am a very hothead. I can just like, and it's okay. I've become very better at it, not only because I've known this about myself for a very long time, and I didn't care to address it in any manner or way. I said what I said, the way I said it. Yeah, you take it how you want to. If you're offended, it's up to you.
I said what I said.
Yeah, and that's not the way to go about it, you know. But it took some really digging deep in to really like figure out, okay, how I'm doing this is not serving me a purpose in any which way or form. I end up with headaches. I end up feeling upset regardless. What is the point of saying that I'm upset in a way that's going to upset me anyway?
But the people that can do it, that can like who do, I guess, consider their values when they're responding, like I admire those people who are able to like.
Sometimes you just gotta blow off steam, though. What's up with that?
Well, I'm not saying that you don't, but I'm saying like when I see somebody like respond to something and they like handle the situation so well. Yeah,
so do I.
And I'm like, damn,
I envy them.
I'm like, damn, like how did they do that? Like they just like,
I know, me
so
too.
like, you know, very like. So like, what is the word? Tactfully, or I don't even know if it's tactful. I don't know.
Yeah,
like in a very like
we've seen a couple of people
non-aggressive way, like handle an aggressive situation, and I'm like, damn, like how did they do that? Like
I know. Sometimes I want to throw a bottle in the situation and like agitate it.
Like it's very admirable.
Stop lying. You know you're mad. Just say you're mad. Come on, rage it up.
No, or some people will even say they're mad. They'll even tell you like that they're mad at you, but they're not getting, but they say it in such a calm way that you're like, oh crap, like it's like. So if you're able to do that, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So when we deny our problems, we rob ourselves of a chance to solve them. But you said that earlier, right? Where you don't say anything because you feel like you're going to be passive aggressive. And it's what it's saying. When we deny our problems, we rob ourselves the chance to solve them. So it's really good to address them. It's just a matter of like how to do it. I'm still learning my hows. I think I've gotten very much better.
But I think the hows, like sometimes it's not even as complicated as we make it. But I think the thing that we do like is that we think about the scenarios in our head beforehand, or we're like, oh, like you already have like this idea. You already had like went through this whole scene of like what's going to happen when you say this and that, and that person's going to say that. And so you go down this road, and then when you have the conversation with somebody, sometimes it's like a lot easier than you actually think it was going to go, because
I know you play out scenarios in your own head and you're like, that's not what you're supposed to say, or at least that's not the way I thought you were going to take it.
And I think that's like because people are like, you know, I think sometimes when it's time to have a difficult conversation with somebody, that person knows that conversation is maybe coming. Yeah. So I think when you actually bring it to them, they've already kind of like had some expectation. Maybe this conversation is going to happen at some point. So when they respond, they're already responding because they already know. Like, so hey, maybe I fucked up. Yeah. So
do you think maybe they come at you like in a different way when they're not expecting it? Like, do you think it's when it's out of left field? And like, sometimes I do understand why some people are aggressive when they're being confronted about something they were aware of, but they didn't know it was to that extent.
Well, I think there's a way to do things. Like sometimes, like I think I can see where like there's a way to do things and a way not to do things. Like if you just, like if you do something where somebody, I think especially if somebody feels like you're trying to embarrass them or humiliate them in a way in front of other people, especially if you're in front of other people, or they feel like attacked, then I think their immediate response is like, well, hold on a minute, like you're not going to attack me, or you're not going to make me look like this, you're not going to do this, and you're not going to. So there's an automatic defense that goes up.
I always say, I remember when I didn't have a fight. So there was a situation. Did I ever tell you about this situation that happened to me in 8th grade? But I was confronted.
Oh, in the restroom?
No, not in the restroom. you see, you really don't remember stories. So can I, really quick, let me tell you my story. So what happened one time was that in 8th grade, there was like, aggressiveness among hormones and people. I had a friend. She was supposed to be my friend. And all of a sudden, she wasn't my friend because some situation happened. Anyway, long story short, she confronted me in front of history class by the lockers and was like, hey, I heard you said blah, 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 blah. Mind you, she was supposed to be my friend. And so I was like, what? Like I was so like thrown back by it, and like there was this tension, right? And I was like, am I gonna get my ass kicked right here? She was a bigger girl. She could have easily kicked my ass. Well, I don't know, but I had never been in a fight at that point. At least I like outside of my sisters. Like I hadn't had a physical fight, and I was like,
weren't sure you could take her?
I didn't know. I didn't know, and I was taken aback by it because she was supposed to be my friend to begin with.
And then
anyway, like one of the teachers comes out and is like, break it out, go to your class. And I'm sitting in my history class and I'm like, just like shaking. I'm like, what was that? And so I asked to excuse myself because of the way I'm feeling to go to the restroom. I go to the restroom and guess who I stumble upon in the restroom?
Oh, that girl.
Yes, I stumbled upon her and guess.
See, it was the restroom. I remember.
It was, okay. So you thought you knew it was involved in the restroom. Okay.
Yeah.
Nobody was in the restroom. It was just me and her. And I sure did confront her. I said, what did you say? What was that? And here's the thing. When you confront people and there's nobody around, they no longer have spectators. The tone changes. Nobody is watching when it's you and them, and you're not on Facebook going back and forth and nobody's watching what they're saying, or they don't have like a group of people to like witness what's happening, not happening. The tone changes. And that's exactly what happened. And she was like, no, I mean like this and like that. And I'm like, well, that's not the way that's not the way. And since then, and I'm happy I learned that then, and I'm happy that happened to me at that moment. Since then, I've learned that when you take the audience away from the person stops being aggressive. And I've tried to do that. So when you talk to people and it's one-on-one, it's a different story. As soon as you add another like if there was 3 of y'all, then it changes.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think that's the thing. Like but that's why it's like if you like, there's a way to talk to people. Like if somebody comes at you and they want to like, especially if it's a sensitive topic and they want to talk to you about something like about you or something that like maybe some beef that you have with each other.
Beef.
Like,
oh my God, it's been forever that I heard that.
If you come up and I come like, hey, what's wrong with you? Like, what's up with you? Like, why are you talking like shit? And like, then people are gonna be like, then that's gonna automatically.
Is that the way you confront people, Juan?
Then people are automatically gonna be like, oh, well, like they're gonna buck up to you. But if you, why are you laughing? They're gonna buck up to you. But if you come up to them like one-on-one and you're like, hey, I want to talk to you. I know that there's been some problems between us, and I want to kind of figure out what's going on.
Want to squash it?
Then that's like more like understandable.
Yeah.
Because like it's like that person's gonna be maybe gonna be more open to hearing you out.
Would you have to say? No, sometimes people just want an audience, and I've learned not to give that to people. Like if no, I'm like, no, I'm not feeding into that.